Let's talk about flowers today, okay? Okay, I'm Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, and I teach organization and mindset tips for professionals. And today I want to talk about lilac trees. Bushes? Trees. I think they can be both. Well, anyways, I Googled and learned a little bit about lilacs for this presentation, and it looks like people say trees or bushes, and they're like both a thing. If you know, comment below. Okay, so I want to talk about lilacs because whenever I go for walks, there's one specific tree up at our cabin where I see every year blooming, and it's gorgeous and it's huge, so it's probably pretty old. And then along our street, we have some really nice public paths, which is amazing. The built environment in this neighborhood is wonderful. And we have lilac trees in people's yards and along the paths, and they bloom and they're just so gorgeous. They're so fragrant. It's just really beautiful. But the thing that I notice is that in the spring, when they bloom in the beginning, usually from May to June, it's so fleeting. And so lilacs actually remind me of the permanence of this time that we have on Earth, and that, it's so fleeting. Life is short. And this video is not about whether you believe in afterlife or reincarnation or any of that. I think there are a lot of different options that you can consider and believe in. But what I'm thinking about is just like embodying this life that you have right now in this current body. And when I walk by lilacs, I'm always excited to see them. And I'm like, oh, great. And I remember some of the first times I've seen them, I'm like, oh, I'll come by and I'll grab a few stems. And these are public ones. And then I maybe get busy with life and things happen. Then on my next walk, I'm like, oh, the blooms are done. They only last for about 2 weeks if the weather is perfect. But in some places, I find that these blooms only last a few days or even a week. And it's so fleeting. And so it just reminds me that we have to be present in the current moment to enjoy something. How many times are we on our phone and we're like, oh, I'm going to save that post or that article to read later? And we never do. So we end up with like these inboxes full of these to read later emails. And it creates like mental stress because it's all these extra unread notifications or to-do lists that we have, like jamming up our mental space. And I think about that with the lilac trees. It's like the idea that, oh, I'll come back later to clip a few blooms off the stem, or I'll see them again later, and I'm on the phone as I'm taking my walk outside. And really what I should be thinking is like, oh wow, how beautiful. Let me enjoy that right now. Because being so present in this moment and taking that in, it's going to allow me to enjoy the full experience. And then when the blooms are gone, I'll know that I've enjoyed that and I won't feel like I've missed out. I think this is also why we feel like that fear of missing out, because we're like, oh, things are so fleeting. Like if we're not paying attention, if we're not online, if we're not checking in, like we're going to miss something. But then we end up missing the things in our life, like things like nature and beautiful blooms and trees and the smell of cut grass. And when I start to be more present in the space that I'm physically in and not in the screen that I'm in, I start to have memories that I haven't thought about. Like when my dad would cut the grass on Saturday morning, like that smell of it, taking a walk on a Saturday, just being like, oh yeah, people are out doing yard work. When I'm on my phone or distracted, doesn't mean much. But when I'm taking a walk and I'm being fully present and I'm enjoying and I'm taking in the smells and using all my senses, I think like of my dad, right? Because like that is such a strong memory, like smell is known to be tied to memory. So I think about my dad, like looking out our window as I wake up on a Saturday morning and seeing my dad on the Cub Cadet lawnmower. It's like yellow and blue lawnmower. And he's cutting the grass. And then I think like I should call my dad. And then immediately I'm just present in that moment. And now I'm connecting to a human and somebody I love. So much better than having that mental energy wasted being on my phone and saving something for later and never coming back to it. Or that same idea with the lilac bush of, oh, I will come back on my next walk and take a look at it, only to realize it's fleeting and it's gone. So life is short. So when you're distracted or feeling overwhelmed, it is okay to cut back on those distractions and just be like present today in the moment right now and just take a few moments. Speaking of my dad, he would always say to me, like, when he's teaching me to drive, and by the way, my dad's still with us, everything's good, but he would say to me, you're never in a hurry. And I remember my driver's ed teacher saying, like, if you go a few miles over, you will only end up at the destination a minute or two earlier than if you had gone the speed limit. And I think that is sort of a nice metaphor for being present in our lives, is that we're all always in a hurry and we're scrolling and we're sort of on this really quick, fast track. And then we burn out and we actually maybe never reach the destination or do the things we want to do or get to enjoy those lilacs. But when we slow down, we'll still reach that destination. We won't be burned out. We'll actually make it there. And we'll have enjoyed all the things on the way, and we won't be behind at all. You'll be right where you want to be and need to be, and you'll be fulfilled and happy. So this is your reminder to like take a moment and go enjoy nature and be fully in the moment and present. And just remember that everything else is a distraction. What matters most is you being in your physical body and in your mind here and present and not somewhere else. All right, if this helped you, don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.